Welcome to Priceless Takes.
And we are live from the Gold Coast, Australia. Welcome back, everyone, to Priceless Takes, episode 76, halfway through the round one of the NBA playoffs here. Joining me today is Tyson, Oscar, and Ruben. Fellas, how are we doing today?
Very well, thank you.
Thank you.
Listen, guys, these playoffs have been very, very interesting so far. We've got a nice little mix of a couple of sweeps. We've got a couple of 3-1 leads. We've got a couple of potential Game 7s that are being brewed. Currently, as we speak today, the Warriors and the Rockets are currently playing Game 4. Oscar is our scorekeeper for this game. It's about to be half-time, though, but Oscar's currently watching this game in the background, keeping us updated. But it's a pretty close game right now with the return of Jimmy Butler after he did miss Game 3. But that's not where we're going to start, guys. We're going to get straight into the Western Conference because the Minnesota Timberwolves have come out and absolutely stunned the Los Angeles Lakers. And I think the majority of the NBA world, and the majority of the podcast, except for Ruben, who picked the Minnesota Timberwolves, albeit not a correct pick just quite yet. But the Lakers travel to Minnesota, lose games 3 and 4. Now they head back to game 5 in LA, down 3-1. Listen, guys, Lakers, in my opinion, Tyson, we're going to talk about you first, but in my opinion, I think there's a lot the Lakers could really be doing better. There's a lot of missed opportunities. I think Anthony Edwards had 43 points in Game 4. LeBron had 38, 10, and 4 in Game 3. Doncic only had 17 in that game, apparently dealing with a stomach bug issue. He came back and had 38 points in Game 4, but only 2 assists to go along with that. Now, for the series, guys, LeBron, 26, 9, and 5, Doncic, 31, 7, and 5, and Reeves, 17, 5, and 4, which on the surface seems like some solid numbers. And when you look at it against Timberwolves, Edwards averaging 38 and 6, Randall, 23, 5, and 5, and McDaniels, 27 and 2, who I think has been one of the biggest players in this series. But, guys, nevertheless, the Lakers down 3-1, do or die. Tyson, what has happened in this series, more specifically in the last 2 games in Minnesota, that has the Lakers in this hole?
Well, going based off, a bit of end of season, recency as well, the pattern we realized was Lakers' execution in the fourth quarter, especially. It's been pretty poor. Going back to those 2 Bulls games, leading for quite a bit, and then just in the fourth quarter, just absolutely letting it go all down the drain. We saw that last game, leading, I think they were up 12 start of the half, and then maintaining maybe a 5 to 6 point lead going to the fourth. And then last few minutes, everything just goes down the drain. Now, giving credit to the Minnesota Timberwolves defense, more specifically, I was surprised that their approach for this series is not so much stop the big 3. It's take everyone else out of it and let Doncic play ISO ball. It's working, but it's just really frustrating to watch, because Luke obviously can't stop Luka Doncic, but the way that they're going is they're just letting him say, hey, he can beat us one-on-one. Who cares about that? Let him score. But one man cannot do it all, unfortunately. And it's pretty evident after a 3-1 series lead. But, it's quite surprising. But I think the main thing is just the Lakers' fourth quarter execution and, sort of coaching strategy-wise.
Look, I mean, I don't like I told you so, but I literally told you guys about the Lakers.
Ruben, there's a lot you've been wrong on as well, buddy, so we'll get to that later, but, jump on your high horse for now.
How about those Hawks?
Look, I think Julius Randle has been very impressive, and I was saying at the end of the Timberwolves season that they were starting to go on a roll, and they've continued that roll. And look, I've agreed with Tyson, Lakers at times have been really doing well at the end of the third and then just drop off in the fourth quarter. I noticed especially, fourth quarter, you had some big players step up. I saw Naz Reid make 2 big threes. They've been getting that bench production. Lakers aren't getting any bench production, considering in Game 4 when they're not using all their starters playing the entire second half. You're getting nothing from the bench. And then not even considering that, you've got Luka Doncic. Look, I know he's a star. LeBron's a star. And LeBron and Luka can figure out how to play with each other. But how does Luka play with the rest of the Lakers? And that's where it goes back to my original argument of if Luka was at the Lakers at the start of the season, I definitely think that Lakers could have won easily 1 or 2 more games if there was more of that synergy rather than trying to play together since February. And Luka's been out for time as well, not just as a Maverick, but as a Laker this season too. So I can see those flaws from a mile away. So I'm not very surprised by this at all. But you can't count the Lakers out considering you have a LeBron and Luka in your team.
I mean, it's the Lakers haven't scored more than 20 points all in the fourth quarter, all series. I mean, even in game 2 when they won by 9, they scored just 20 points, outscored them 20-13. Got outscored 20-13 in the fourth. And if they didn't have that big first quarter where they scored 35 points, they would have been in the same position. So, I mean, for the Lakers, they've never really had a fix for this. It's been the same thing for years now where they struggled after the half. And they brought in JJ Redick. They thought he was going to fix the problem. Now they brought in Luka Doncic, who is great in second halves. He hasn't fixed the problem. So I don't know really where they go from here in terms of trying to create production in the fourth when teams are just hounding on the other guys and making, Luka or what should be LeBron, even though he hasn't been doing it, play this ISO one-on-one ball. And another thing is they don't have, and we everyone knows this, and we knew this coming to the series. They don't have a big man playing productive minutes, which it makes it such a struggle in a grindy game when you don't have a big man setting big hard screens, cutting, rolling, being a lob threat. Jackson Hayes played 4 minutes, last game, and it's just a major struggle when you don't have that big man threat and you're relying on shooters to more 3-and-D guys and wing players to get your production other than LeBron and Luka. So I obviously the series isn't over, and obviously they have LeBron and Luka, but I just don't see the Lakers coming out with a win this series, and it's really disappointing.
I think the Lakers would be especially disappointed right now that the Mark Williams trade didn't go through, especially when Dalton Connect hasn't been playing that much throughout this entire series.
I mean,
he played in game 1. That was it.
Yes, like JJ's obviously playing a smaller lineup, a shorter lineup, and a smaller lineup. But I mean, he just doesn't have anyone that can come in straight away to the playoffs from their bench that he thinks that can give him productive minutes.
Yeah, listen guys, this sort of just reminds me, it feels like the Lakers are a group of individuals playing against the real team in Minnesota. And Minnesota, I think, is playing harder. I think they're hustling harder. I think they're better coached. And I think they have a clear sense of direction in how they want to play the Lakers. And what you were saying before, Rubes, I think is completely correct. The Lakers in the fourth quarter are looking absolutely gassed. And when you look at the minutes distribution, there's a reason that there's never ever been the same 5 players playing for a whole second half in an NBA playoff game, because it's just not sustainable, and they're getting outrun in the fourth quarter, particularly in these last 2 games. Just looking at the stats, Anthony Edwards in game 4 had 16 points alone in the fourth quarter. Doncic and LeBron were 1 for 8 combined, and the Lakers shot 28% from the field, while the Timberwolves shot 46%. And in the Game 3 fourth quarter, the T-Wolves shot 55% from the field and from 3, and the Lakers shot 35% from the field and 27% from 3. And the late game execution is just not there for the Lakers. And we know in the playoffs, guys, and I say this in the NFL all the time, but the little things in the playoffs get magnified because the games are of such smaller margins than in the regular season when there's more room for error. And the Timberwolves have a game plan, and not to mention the mental mistakes by the Lakers. We saw LeBron have a horrible inbounds pass against the Bulls earlier this season, which ended up costing them in game. What do we see in game 4? Down by 1, 37 seconds to go. Nearly an identical type of pass just from the sideline as opposed to the baseline like in the Bulls game. And in essence, you're down by 3 at that point, and then you're relying on Austin Reeves to hit a fadeaway 3 from the corner. So mistakes from the Lakers mentally, mistakes from the Lakers fatigue, I think it comes down to coaching. I think it comes down to the lack of depth. But does that also beg the question of, is it the players or is it the trust that the coach has in those players? Tyson, what are the chances you give the Lakers of coming back on a scale of 1 to 10 here?
Realistically, probably like 5 or 6.
Okay.
Like,
As when I say come back, sir, I mean to come back and win the series,
Yeah,
not
yeah,
just
You're
Yeah.
giving them a 6 when they're down 3-1.
yeah.
Jeez.
Mainly, it's purely just they need to adapt to a better second half outcome, which definitely needs to be reinforced by JJ Redick.
But you haven't done that the past 2 seasons, and now you're expecting them to come into next game and just everything change in the second half. It's just not going to happen.
Well, that was the whole point of a coaching change and then a huge trade, is to see what happens with that. But at the moment, JJ Redick hasn't shown it clearly because of leaving the same fucker for a goddamn whole half. And then you've got them not going through with trades and then keeping the same player who they wanted to keep on the bench. It's just simple stuff like that, which I do think if JJ Redick, adapted to it and changed.
But what's the change?
Get fresh legs on the court. That's what you need.
Yeah, but what?
A minute, 30 seconds.
Yeah, but I just don't know who you're going to play in that second half that is going to give you production where the Timberwolves aren't just going to steamroll.
It wasn't necessarily steamroll. They were up by 9. They could have had fresh legs, Jared Vando and Jordan Goodwin, just come in for maybe minute or 30. Minute 30, that's it. Just to hold it. He's got the 9-point lead.
The Lakers flat
just
out
to hold
lost
it
that
for a
game
little bit.
4. Like, the Lakers were in control for the majority of that game and
They were
completely
in
crumbled
control,
apart
and it
down
was
the
purely
stretch.
because frustration at the end, lack of motivation. Everyone's tired on the court, and that easily could have been avoided.
I mean, a major issue also is just they were just settling for shots in the fourth. I was screaming at my TV saying, "Luka, please drive," instead of just yakking a 3. Obviously, he
It's
can
because
make
they were
them.
gassed.
But you're up by 12 going into the fourth, I think it was, and then you're just settling on 3s, and yeah, it does work sometimes. And Luka is an amazing player, and he can hit shots. But
That's the point, because they're gassed to drive. They've got no energy to drive.
yeah, I understand that, but professional NBA players grow up.
Still, have you played a full 3-hour game with all that intensity?
I understand what you're saying, but this is a must-win game, and you're settling for shots. You get paid millions and millions of dollars to do this.
That's the thing, though. That's the thing.
I understand they're tired.
It's the mental frustration. They're tired. They've left everything out on the court.
I completely understand that. But when you're in the fourth quarter and you've got someone like LeBron James on your team who's doing nothing in the fourth, is no production from that guy at all, and the ball's just going through one player, Luka Doncic, someone needs to step up, and it usually is a LeBron in the fourth. Someone needs to step up. He's been in the league. He's been in the league for 20. Yeah, he's been in the league for 21 years. He's been doing it for that long, and he's done it. We've seen him be able to do it.
He just wouldn't do it if he couldn't.
I understand what you're saying, but you have Luka controlling that offense, throwing up 3s.
It's because the Minnesota Timberwolves have taken out everyone else. That's the whole point of the series. Their defense is letting Luka Doncic shoot.
I know, but my issue is the settling. They are settling in the fourth for shots.
That's the best look when it comes down to 5 seconds on the shot clock, because they're tired of running the ball around, finding nothing. That's because that's a credit to the Timberwolves defense.
That is not the best look. You've got Austin Reeves. There was a play I specifically remember. Austin Reeves gets past the ball from Luka, drives into the hole, swings it out to a guarded LeBron on the hash, and then they have to rush a shot.
Well, then defense in the paint, no?
Yeah, I understand that, but just go, you're up by 12, go to the hole. They're settling for 3s, and I know they're tired, and I know this, that, and the other.
But that's the whole thing, they're not going to get a good look driving to the hoop.
But
possession after possession after just playing 36 goddamn minutes straight.
I understand that, but something needs to change from either the players
that's
or
what I'm
the coaching
suggesting, that they rotate fresh legs while they're up, because they know how to control the game. Once they have the lead, you put in fresh legs. That's what you do.
It's that negative loop cycle. Because again, who are you going to put in? Like,
Like I just said, you've got a 12-point lead. You just get
I
defense
just don't,
to hold it for a little bit.
I just don't think rotating fresh legs in there will help them.
Well, listen, if I can just say something, because LeBron only took 9 shots in that game 4, but he also had 15 free throws. So I think both of what you're saying is right, because he was driving to the rim and getting fouled consistently throughout the game. But at the end of the game,
Stops in the fourth.
I think he was settling. I've thought LeBron historically has always settled too much when it comes down to the fourth. And when you have 15 free throws in the game, I would be taking it down, going for free throws 16 and 17, because Tyson, in 54 seconds to go, Lakers up by 1. LeBron takes a 3-point shot. He takes a 3-point shot. You know, that's when you put a stranglehold on the game and you drive, you hopefully make the layup, you likely get fouled. And then if you're up by 3 points with 40 seconds to go, then you really, really put yourself in the best chance to win. And then even if you do make a bad pass off the inbounds, instead of it costing your team and then you having to shoot a game-tying 3, you're hopefully still up by 1 point in that scenario. So I think that it comes hand in hand, because I think LeBron was gassed at the end of the game, but also it begs the question, maybe at the offseason, can we be relying on a 40-year-old LeBron James to be carrying this team? I don't think 2015-16 LeBron James is getting blocked behind by Mike Conley when he goes up for a layup, okay? I don't think that's going to happen in 2015-16. It happened last night. Mike Conley's the only player in the NBA, really, who's at the same age as LeBron, who's playing in this deep in the playoffs. And Mike Conley's barely an inch over 6 foot. So I think that this series, for me, this has sort of opened up my eyes a little bit more as to how we think about LeBron and his production going forward. I do want to move on, but I want to hear what Ruben has to say about this sort of topic as well, Rubes.
Well, I don't know. Like, I don't think you can ever count out Luka and LeBron just for how great they are. And like, I've been consistent that like, don't let it go to 7 games. Don't let it go to 7 games, because Luka will pop off, LeBron will pop off. But one interesting thing that's resonated with me, when you talk about fatigue and everything, everyone on this panel, JJ Redick at the start of the fourth had an interview, and he said that it wasn't about defensive schemes that he was running. It was about the intensity. But you're not helping your intensity argument if you're going to play the same players for the entire second half. And that's where I think that this roster is not well built to win the finals or even get past this round. And that's why I think I didn't want the Lakers to be overhyped. They need this offseason to build somewhat of a new team around Luka, because the plan with Luka is long term. It's not to win a ring this year. The only reason that there's pressure is because Luka's all-time great, LeBron's an all-time great, and that's why they think that they can just win with those 2 players alone, with a first-season coach.
So, Rubes, what chance do you give the Lakers to win the series at this point?
2 or 3.
2 or 3. Oscar, I didn't know if you actually gave me a number or not.
Probably a 1 or a 2.
1 or a 2. I'm sitting at around a 4, because I don't think you can truly count out LeBron and Luka. But I think the way that the Timberwolves are playing, I would really, really struggle to figure out how they would lose. And the Lakers, I think for me, the one thing that I think really they need to do better is just guard the 3-point line, because we saw in the regular season how they were leaving teams open from threes, and a lot of times it worked, a lot of times it didn't. But you have Edwards, Randall, and McDaniels all hitting 40% from 3. Julius Randle should not be hitting 46% of his 3-point shots. That is very uncharacteristic. You can live with Anthony Edwards.
Well, he went. But
you can live with Anthony Edwards having to play crazy playoff series. We talked about this in the preview. Yep. But to have Randall shooting 46% and even McDaniels shooting 43%, I mean, shouldn't be happening if you're the Lakers defensively. And I think LeBron at times looks like the best defensive player out there for the Lakers, which is concerning for me.
I mean, we also talked about Randall having to have a massive series for them to win, and he's just proving us that he can do that.
And I think the way that Randall was playing, I think that starts with Anthony Edwards. I think Anthony Edwards, he's getting up in LeBron's grill. He's being physical with every single one of those Lakers players, and he is bringing a high intensity, a high energy. And I think Randall and the rest of those players are really feeding off of that when they come in. Ruben, you talked about it. Naz Reid comes in, makes an impact. He had 8 points in the fourth quarter in Game 4. Like, we talk about these players, and it starts with Anthony Edwards, who I think's been the best player in this series. and that's also why I think the Minnesota Timberwolves are in this position. Any final thoughts before we move on to the next series? Awesome, guys. Well, listen, my favorite series so far of the first round, the Clippers and the Nuggets. I think we've all sort of, I don't really know where you guys are at now, but I think no one's really surprised about how this series has turned out so far. We're currently at 2-2. The Clippers, to my shock, beat the Nuggets by 34 points in Game 3 in LA, but then Aaron Gordon in Game 4 comes up with the clutch game winner, tying the series up 2-2 in LA, which fought off a 22-point comeback from the Clippers in the fourth quarter, going on a 32-10 run. Jokic, 36-21 and 8 in that Game 4, and all 5 starters scored 10-plus for them, while Kawhi, and the big 4 for the Clippers, you could even say, in this game, it turned out to be at least, with Kawhi, Harden, Norman, Zoo all chipping in for equal efforts. But the Clippers and the Nuggets, guys, 3 out of the 4 games decided by 1 possession. This series has been as close as I anticipated. It's been as intense as I anticipated. Who wins Game 5, guys? The Clippers are favourites on the road. Oscar, do you think the Clippers take Game 5 in Denver? How do you see the rest of this series playing out?
Luca, you said this series no surprise. I'm more surprised how much I'm enjoying a Clippers series. This is my favorite series in so far, just because of how close it's been and how intense it's been. It's just been, the stars are doing star things. Everyone's playing the way they should be playing, and it's coming down to the wire, and it's showing from either team that either team can win this series. I believe, though, who wins Game 5? I think they go back to Denver. Denver takes out Game 5, and puts the pressure on for the Clippers to win a Game 6 and a Game 7. But just because I think going from LA back up to Denver, I think it's going to be a struggle for the Clippers. And I mean, it's so even. It's probably going to be within 2 points. So I don't really know. But that's my reasoning. I think that going back up to Denver, they're going to take out the Game 5.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. Like, last week at Oscar's house, I said something that I've never said before. I said, "Can we turn on the Clippers game?"
Yes.
Never said that in my life.
Yep.
Never said that in my life. But my God, I do love a good NBA series. So, but everyone's playing phenomenal. It's great back and forth basketball. Like, on the edge of your seat, cannot skip it. Each possession fully matters. And yeah, Game 5, I do reckon Nuggets will actually win back at home. 2 games LA. LA's getting comfortable, going back to the Mile High. Nuggets are back in their home ground. Home court's probably crazier than ever. Everyone will be there. It's going to be crazy battle. I just feel Jokic masterclass incoming in Game 5. I do think they'll take it, but as Oscar said, it'll probably be decided in the last 2 possessions of that game, as for most games. But then, yeah, after that, I do see Clippers taking 6 and 7 due to momentum's sake. So, yeah.
Look, I agree with 90% of what you guys said. I think the only difference is that I actually have the Clippers winning in Game 5. Like, Jokic had to get 30 points and 20 rebounds just for it to be a 2-point game. Like, look, I understand the Nuggets are up by like 20 points, but when you look at it, Harden had a really off game. And I just think when they made Jokic a pass-first player, rely on the others to step up when they haven't really been stepping up. They've been down, most of them. Like, you look at Murray, was off yesterday. MPJ's been inconsistent. Like, all the stars have been pretty inconsistent. So when you rely on Jokic to pass the ball rather than score, I think the Nuggets have been more ineffective than effective when Jokic passes it. And you look at the Clippers, their home ground, the Dome. It's amazing home ground. And it's only like the first season it's kicked off. And every time I've seen Norman Powell make a corner 3 and Steve Ballmer's up and Steve jumping up and down, it's the greatest thing I've ever watched. Like, this is the best little brother of LA that I've ever seen. And I just think with how well that Kawhi's been playing, Harden for most part, even Zubats has been really impressive for me. And Jokic isn't the best defender. So I've got Clippers winning Game 5.
Damn.
Yeah, listen, the Clippers, I think, need to win Game 5. And I say that because you know my thoughts on James Harden, who's played I think he's played all right in this series. I think he's done a lot of good things. I think he's done a couple of iffy things. I think he was a bit passive in the last game. But I think the Nuggets are going to win Game 5. I think the Nuggets have a bit of momentum coming back into Denver. I think it's going to be close because the Clippers have always made it close. But I'm looking at this Game 6 in LA, and I'm looking at Kawhi Leonard, who in 3 Game 6s for the Clippers has averaged 34 points per game, 9 rebounds per game, 5 assists per game on 60%, 50%, 93% shooting splits. And I'm looking at those stats and I'm thinking back to Game 2 when I saw Kawhi absolutely dominate in Denver. I think the Clippers are still the front runners to win this series. And I think that they have overall been the better team. I think they've overall played better basketball. But you guys know what I think. And I said this at the start. I'm going to say it again. That man Jokic, he could do it by himself. And he still very well may. I'm taking the Nuggets in Game 5, barely. But I do think the Clippers can win. Game 6, though, is where I'm expecting Kawhi to really flex his muscles. And in saying that, Kawhi also in 3 Game 5s for the Clippers has also averaged 29 points per game. So I'm not going to act like he can't do it in Game 5 again. But I think Games 3 and 4, Kawhi wasn't playing up to the standard he played in Game 2. And the Clippers had a bit more of a well-rounded effort. But I think the Clippers, I think they still have someone up their sleeve. And I think this is where the coaching matchup is really going to matter. Because it looks like Jokic is coaching this team. Which is, again, goes to his greatness. But the Denver role players also got to step up a bit more. Brown shooting 14% from 3 is just not good enough. And the Clippers, Chris Dunn has been great defensively, but 1 for 9 in Game 4. And I get it, you're not relying on Chris Dunn to win you basketball games.
He's wide open half the time as well.
But that's the thing. And he is. And it's the same thing they were doing to Russell Westbrook. You know. But Chris Dunn's not there to make threes.
Gotta give him some credit. Defensively, he's been amazing.
I know. But if that 1 for 9 was just a 3 for 9, even you at least give us 33. You give us 33%. You know, in Game 4, Batum, Dunn, Derek Jones Jr. and the other guy we brought off the bench. I'm having a brain fade. Shot 7 for 27. That's 27%. In Game 4, so you can't be having that from your. Yeah, no, it was Batum. Oh, Bogdanovic. Sorry, Bogdanovic, Batum.
Yeah.
Done. No, well, Ben Simmons only played 7 minutes in Game 4, so I'm looking at that as well. The Clippers, you know, this is going to be really. I think you need one of those players to really come along for the ride because you look at Denver. Jokic is going to make up for the mishaps of, you know, maybe Jamal Murray or Aaron Gordon, but then you really need one of MPJ or Brown to come along. And I think the Clippers, when I trust Harden less and less in this series, I need more from Norm, who played well in the 2 home games, and Zubats, who played really well actually, needs to continue to do that. What do you guys think of the coaching aspect of this, Rubes, as the further we get on in this series?
I think it is really going to matter, like similar to Minnesota, like Lakers, it has mattered. Like we've seen Finch with the more experience with the rotations and the substitutions. I think that's going to matter. I think the adjustments as well. Like I know Ben Simmons has played little minutes, but I think like you give him those 1 or 2 minutes off the bench where he's up against Jokic, he's contained him, I think, pretty well. And then you look at Bogdanovic as well. He gives you good production. Like he can shoot 3-ball really well, can defend. So I think it's just those fine lines of those like substitutions, adjustments. I'd give Ty Lue definitely the edge over this current coach.
Yeah. Listen, small margins, guys. Aaron Gordon should have been boxed out. That's all I'm saying. You know, regardless of whether I think his hand was still touching the ball, even though it was kind of in the hoop. I guess we've never really had a play like that. That shouldn't have even got to that. The Clippers should have been boxing out Aaron Gordon. And it's small margins where I always have sort of banged on the Clippers because historically, those small margins have always gone against them, which is why they've never made an NBA final. It's why they've only made 1 conference final. It's why year after year after year, something, whether it's an injury, whether it's a play here, a play there, where it's blowing 3-1 lead to Houston, blowing a 3-1 lead to Denver. This needs to be the year where the Clippers fix those small margins and hopefully can actually make something of the rest of this series. Otherwise, they're going to get beat.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the coaching, going back to the coaching, I think that Ty Lue has been fantastic, and the Clippers have just looked more. They've just looked more composed out there, even when down, even when they're struggling. That Ty Lue still made proper good rotations to put them in the best position to win the basketball game. And you know, we saw that in that 2-point game. But I just think that going into that game 5 against Denver, Jokic, I think he'll have a little bit of momentum going into that one, and Denver will be a sea of yellow.
The Clippers, I think, should still be feeling good about themselves, though, to come
Of
back from
course.
that game
Yeah,
and nearly win it. I don't know if that's going to impact Denver at all, because if Denver had lost that game, that would have been catastrophic.
That would have been so bad.
Yeah,
Like-
this would be a completely different topic if Denver lost that game. But
Yeah.
I just think coming out of that game, the Clippers should be happy with their performance, and you know, I think the players should have trust in Ty Lue, and Ty Lue should have trust in his players for the next couple games of the series.
T, final thoughts before we move out east?
Not really. Like, credit to Tyler, great coach. Pretty much going up against Jokic, so it sort of is a one-man show over there for Jokic. But yeah, I do think Clippers will still overall win the series.
Yeah, the one thing I will say before we move on, this has really sort of just confirmed my belief, and you guys probably will still disagree, or maybe you won't disagree with the overall point, but I really would not give Denver much of a chance against Oklahoma City if they do advance to round 2, and I would give the Clippers a real shot to win. I would have them winning, but I think that, like, generally, I think most people would give the Clippers a much better shot to beat Oklahoma City than Denver, I think, based on how this first round series has gone.
Anyone with a brain, yeah.
Yeah, I think off a quick point, like at this, like when I was doing my initial bracket, I had the Thunder sweeping the Clippers, but then I definitely, looking at the series, I think Thunder should definitely not take that lightly. Similar
You
to
said
like
the Hawks up
Cleveland
there
sleeping
somewhere, didn't you?
Miami. So what? We don't need to bring that up.
Well, I mean,
But
listen, the Thunder had a good little warm-up round 1 against Memphis, so, you know, they might be in a position to actually be well rested
lovely
for the
break.
Clippers.
Yeah, they're lucky.
You know.
because John figured them out.
The Thunder could take an early trip to Cancun and come back in time for round 2.
Yeah,
That's how much
yeah,
time they have
could.
after sweeping
Kick their
those
feet up.
bum-ass Grizzlies.
Okay, let's not talk that.
Let's
move
head
on.
out east, guys.
Rubes has had a
Knicks,
shocker.
Pistons.
Let's move this.
T-Man looking in some hot water after picking the Pistons to upset the Knicks in the panel. Knicks go up 3-1, but never is a
rigged.
New York Knicks playoff series without a bit of controversy, guys. They take Game 4, 94-93, with a controversial call going against the Pistons at the end of that game. They take Game 3, 118-116. Game 3, the Knicks had 4 players with 20-plus points. Brunson and Cat combined for 59 points in Game 4, while Cade had a triple-double in Game 4, tacking on 24 points in Game 3. Listen, guys, small margins. We keep talking about this, and it's a come up again in this series. Tyson, you picked the Pistons. You watched these games. Did the Pistons get robbed in Game 4? Yes or no?
Yes, just from a pure basketball standpoint, yes. I think, considering in the Lakers game, they got the AC 130 drone out from above.
Yes, they
Looking
did.
at a whole, I've never seen a camera angle like that
I
before.
couldn't believe that angle. I couldn't believe it.
Never seen that camera angle in my life, and then they can't even go look at that. You know, a really, really like significant possession. Can't have a look at that and properly get it right. It's a bit of a shame to see, but in a whole different dimension, Pistons could be up 3-1, but they are worse than the Lakers at in the fourth quarter. Wasn't it? It was a game. I can't remember which game it was. Was it a almost 20-point lead that they choked? Game 2 or
3.
something? Game 1? I don't know which one. Bad choke.
Game 3, they were up by 12 points in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, well, they've obviously done it twice. Serious chokes going to the fourth, just playing basketball going all down the drain. So, yeah, back into your point of last possession, yeah, I do think it was robbed of, potential different outcome,
I mean, I agree that they were probably well. Obviously, they were robbed the post-game officiating came out and said it was a foul. But at the end of the day, I hate, as a guy who plays basketball and a guy who watches basketball, I hate things coming down to a missed call, because missed calls happen probably 100 times a game. That if you come down to it, there's a missed call every possession. There's someone holding, there's someone doing this, there's someone doing that. So I hate people coming down to this one last play that's so highlighted, saying because of that they lost. I mean, they were up, they had a shocking fourth quarter, and that comes down to a playoff experience. At the end of the day, they lost that game, and yeah, the call was a bad call, it was the wrong call, but it just isn't a thing that should be as highlighted as it is, because the Pistons were up and they lost. They had a bad fourth quarter. So
Look, I just think the Knicks have a lot of star power, and Pistons just don't have anything, and that's what it comes down to. Like, you look at
Cade.
Jalen Brunson
God damn.
having amazing fourth quarters, stepping up, even like getting that slight tweak in the game four. Yeah, game four. Sorry, I got the mix up. Like still stepping up fourth quarter. Cat with the big three. Anunoby, I believe, had a really big game three. Mikal Bridges, he's had a couple threes. Even Campaign in game one, when they were down by 11, had like 11 to 14 points in the fourth quarter. So, look, Campaign, he's not amazing, but he's a good role player where he's been in the playoffs before when you look at it with Phoenix and everything. So, like, Detroit have done really well. They just don't have the star power. Like, when you look at Cade Cunningham trying to do everything, Tobias Harris, he's got the bag, so he doesn't have to worry about it. And then Malik Beasley has been very inconsistent in terms of shooting the three ball. But I think that's just what it comes down to. Yeah, of course, I think the Pistons got robbed with that call, but that's just what makes the game entertaining, those fine margins and missed calls. But when you look at the Knicks, it just comes down to their star power, which is why they're up 3-1.
yeah, I mean, Brunson's been amazing in the fourth, and that's why he won the Clutch Player of the Year. And the Knicks stayed composed. They got ahead by one, even though there's a missed call, whatever. They got ahead. And they finished out the game. And that just comes down to experience.
Yeah, listen, the Pistons have been consistent at running their mouths and trying to start fights, but they haven't been consistent at playing winning basketball, okay? And Brunson has absolutely torn them apart, like you said, Oscar. I was worried about Brunson a little bit with his lack of games coming into the series, but he has proven that wrong. No one can guard him. But I want to give some props to Karl Anthony Towns, because at the end of games 1 and 2, he was averaging 16.5 points. He's come back out in games 3 and 4, averaging 29 points across those two games, and I think he's been the difference really in these two Detroit games, because Brunson's going to give you his. We're not worried about him. And Josh Hart shooting 55% from three. We sort of saw it last year in the Philadelphia playoff series, where the Knicks just kept on finding a way to make big plays. I hope, and that's happened here again. We'll see if it happens in round 2. I believe the Knicks are going to close this one out. We'll see how it goes. Tyson, do you give the Pistons a chance to come back in this series based on how close the games have been?
No. No matter how close, it does come down to the experience and execution. Knicks have shown it, done it before, and they're just not going to stop doing it out of nowhere. Like no matter how hard Detroit can play basketball, and keep it close, Knicks will still have that slight edge regardless.
I mean, if the Pistons were to win this, they'd have to blast out the Knicks in the first 2 games, in my opinion, and just shell shock them for the rest of the series. And they didn't come out and do that. And you know what, they have played well, but I just think the composure of the Knicks to get the lead, stay composed in the fourth, and win basketball games is just the reason. But Detroit will be back. They'll be back.
Look, I think they'll be back. I give Lakers more of a chance to come back against Minnesota than I do Detroit to come back against New York.
Yeah.
And look, I don't know if you guys are going to agree with me on this one, but this current Detroit team, like we talk about grit and grind, this team really reminds me of Memphis 2 years ago against that Lakers team, where like you look at LeBron and AD having the more experience, Memphis being the young team, grit and grind, like because those games are close, like and went to 6 games as well. But it's about what they do after this season, like because they've been amazing. We can't deny that, but they're just not well equipped enough to beat New York at the moment.
Yeah, I mean they've found someone now. Cade, obviously first pick in the draft, but that they can build around him and keep building this team to be that grit and grind bad boy Pistons-y type team. And yeah, I think they'll definitely be back next year.
I'm a big advocate, as you guys have known, for Giannis to Minnesota, but the way Minnesota's playing, that you never know. Maybe Detroit could put in a little off-season bid for Giannis.
That would be insane.
You never know. Listen, guys, we're going to transition to Giannis now because the Pacers find themselves dominating the Milwaukee Bucks, taking a 3-1 series stranglehold after a 26-point road Game 4 victory, which did see, unfortunately, Damian Lillard go down with a torn Achilles tendon, which is very, very unfortunate considering he just made his return from his deep vein thrombosis. The Bucks did take Game 3 though with Dame on the court, but despite that, Gary Trent Jr. was the big story in that game, having 37 points. The Pacers though have still largely dominated. In 3 of the 4 games they've held a 20-plus point lead, and they are really just taking a stranglehold over them, guys. Kuzma, we know what happened to him in Game 1. He hasn't had his greatest series. Giannis has been giving you his, but as I sort of said in the preamble, I thought with Dame, I thought without Dame, this Bucks team could not match the Indiana Pacers and their well-roundedness and their ability to score from a variety of different ways and methods. Oscar, what are your thoughts on this series? You picked the Pacers to lose, actually, and you picked Milwaukee in an upset. What are you seeing in this series so far?
My pick was based off the storyline that Giannis was fed up not getting out of the first round. I thought Giannis has had a fantastic series, as we all thought he would. I just thought that he would be able to drag this team across the line with a few other players trying to help him out a little bit. The thing is, no one's helped him out this series. Not one person has helped him out this series.
Well, and Gary Trent did, but
apart from Gary Trent scoring, what was it, 37 points or something, matching Giannis's 37 or 38 or whatever he got. But in 3 out of the 4 games, he's had zero help, and I just thought that Giannis would able to drag this team. I was wrong. But Giannis, props to him. He's had an absolutely fantastic series, and it's really sad to hear about Dame as well.
Yeah. Look, it just obviously without Dame, the Bucks haven't had a consistent second option to help Giannis and someone step up. Like they've had one person in each game. Like Bobby stepped up Game 2, 28-point double. Gary Trent 37, Kevin Porter Jr. It's just too inconsistent. Brook Lopez is nowhere to be seen. Kyle Kuzma, cardio masterclass in Game 1. There's just nothing there to support the backbone of Giannis. He's out there leaving everything on the floor, playing 35 to 40 minutes a game, putting it all out there, and there's nothing. Another thing I did notice is, I don't know, I mean, I haven't really watched the games, but the fast break points with the Pacers is almost double the Bucks. And Bucks have only led twice in the series, and their largest lead was 12, as we're compared to the Pacers, 28, 16, 22, 26. It's just gone down to Giannis doing everything himself, really.
Well, coming into the series, we knew this was a bad matchup for the Bucks. We knew that Indiana were just so quick with the basketball, the brand of basketball they play, and they've shown it by putting up 38-point quarters and things like that, and scoring in transition, and yeah. So, Rubes?
Look, I don't know. I kind of feel bad for Milwaukee because, like Tyson said, Giannis is doing it by himself, but I'm more interested in the Cleveland Indiana series because I think that'll be very interesting because you're looking at 2 teams with high offense. Like Cleveland are the only team in the NBA to have.
I thought it was supposed to be a Heat Indiana series.
Look, when Tyler Hero played that well in the play-in and then ghosts in 4 games, of course Miami are not going to get past Cleveland. But back to the original point. Cleveland, every game have scored 120 points above in the NBA playoffs. So the only team to do it. Shooting 50% from the floor, 40% from 3. Indiana with their high-paced offense, very similar stats. So it'll be very interesting to see how they match up. But I just think that with Indiana, like, it's just the team, the idea of a team, and like having multiple players step up, shooting the ball well with their offense. So I think that'll be a very exciting series coming up with one offense against the other offense.
Yeah, listen, I picked Indiana to upset Cleveland in round 2. I still feel very confident in that pick based on how they've been playing. We'll talk about it more later. It seems like it's going to go that way. I'm going to take the Pacers to win and close out in Game 5. Cleveland looked very impressive. Rubes, I'm not really sure what you were thinking with that Miami Heat pick, but I respect the hustle. Also, considering the Grizzlies lost, that's another unfortunate outcome for you, Rubes.
Still on the team.
But you at least picked the Thunder to beat them, so I do appreciate that. But Ruben, the elephant in the room here is what happened to your Atlanta Hawks? Like, can we just get a bit of commentary on that, please, before we finish the episode? We know that they did get knocked out in the second round of the play, and you did have them advancing to the conference finals, which is a very, very gutsy pick, I must say. I don't think I could ever make a pick
51 to 1
like
odds,
that.
wasn't it?
But what are your overall sort of thoughts on what happened to the Hawks and what they're looking like for moving forward?
I don't know, because like I've just seen with Trae Young, like it's just he's a great player, but he just didn't play well. And then Tyler Hero obviously had a really amazing game. Davion Mitchell, I think in the play-in was really impressive, and I thought that was going to be something exciting to watch, but then that just didn't end up happening in the first round. Look, Cleveland were just a lot better team, and I thought they were massively
Did you
overhyped.
genuinely think the Heat were going to beat Cleveland? Like, in your heart?
Well, can I ask,
With how Tyler Hero's playing,
based on what you'd seen from Cleveland against the Heat, and based on what you'd seen from the Hawks in the play-in, if the Hawks did advance in the play-in, do you think they would have beaten Cleveland after watching them play in round 1?
yes.
Don't say it, Rubes. Don't say it, Rubes.
What are you doing?
Hey, I respect
They
it.
dominated
What are you
No,
doing?
They dominated them. They
Stand on
dominated
business.
them.
Tyson still thinks the Lakers are going to win the NBA Finals. Like, come on now.
Yeah.
Like, I've got
I
the
still
horrendous
think
takes. Oh,
There's,
down 3-1. Come on now.
oh. But
Listen, guys. Finish, Oscar. Go on.
Rubes, there is no way in your heart you believe that the Atlanta Hawks would have beaten that Cleveland team that just dominated the Heat. Like, really? Like, that's just bad. That's just like, what are we talking about here? There's just nothing that even backs that up. What are you, Tyler Hero's going to drop 50 a game? Or Trae Young's going to drop 50 a game? Like, Bruce.
Miami were dominating against your terrible Bulls, by the way, which would absolutely no
But
show.
that's ass versus ass, Rube.
Yeah, Rubes. That's battle of the mid. That's a
win swing race right there.
It's legit.
Look, Cleveland played really well. Like most of their starters, if not all of them, had like 50-40 splits, shooting 50% from the floor and 40% from the three. So if you're coming up against that, then of course you're going to lose. A little, I actually am. Yes, I'm genuinely 50% from the floor, 40% from three. Considering how well Mobley and Garland have been over the last couple of playoff series.
They've been doing that a lot of the season. They've been doing that a lot of the season.
Yeah, but the regular season's different to the playoffs.
Oh, okay.
Like, look at Houston, they're the 2 seed, and they're getting destroyed by a Golden State team in Game 3 where, like, Jimmy Butler wasn't there, and there's no offensive power.
But
So I thought it was the same thing, but I was wrong. I can concede that.
I know, but the difference was is we all picked Golden State, and we in this one, except you, we all picked Cleveland. Like they're completely different teams, Houston and Cleveland. Even though they're both great regular season teams, but Houston have their own woes to worry about that Cleveland, I think, have to worry about less. Had to worry about less in the first.
Yeah. Listen, guys, speaking of the Warriors and the Rockets, Game 4, currently 77-74, Golden State. Final picks before we say goodbye for this episode. Ruben, who wins Game 4 currently live? Go.
Golden State.
T.
Golden State.
Need Curry's over, but Golden State.
Yeah. Clean sweep from all of us. Okay, guys, I'll take the Warriors too to go up 3-1. But that is all we have for Priceless Takes, episode 76. I am your host, Luca Price. Thank you for watching, guys. We'll be back next week with another episode, and hopefully by then, all of round 1 will be concluded. So we'll see how our picks turned out. We'll also keep an eye on our Instagram for our predictions challenge where we rank the 4 of us. We're going to talk about it maybe in private, but we might even have a little forfeit for the loser of the challenge to maybe increase the stakes as we continue through the NBA playoffs. But make sure to follow us on our Instagram and our TikTok, both down in the description below. Guys, thanks for joining me once again. Pleasure as always.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Luca.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all for listening in to Priceless Takes. I'm your host, Luca Price, and we will see you next time.